There are stories we hear, and then there are stories that change something inside us. Some families break you. Some families build you. And sometimes, the same family does both. Today, I'm sharing a story of a sister who wasn't just a sibling, she became the mother, the protector, the backbone no one talks about. A girl who gave up her entire youth to raise two children who were never hers, yet they grew up acting like she never existed. This is her story. A story of sacrifice, betrayal, silent revenge, and unexpected strength. My name is Marceline Drew, but everyone calls me Marcy. I'm 32 years old now, but the truth is, I feel like I've lived two different lives. The first life ended when I was just 14. That was the age when my mother, Evelyn Drew, stopped coming home regularly. She worked night shifts, weekend doubles, and sometimes disappeared for days saying she was figuring things out. I had two younger siblings, Callan, who was 9, and Sorrel, who was barely 6. And the moment I realized no adult was coming to save us, I became the adult. I still remember that night. Callan was crying because he couldn't find a clean shirt for school. Sorrel had fallen asleep on the couch, her hair tangled with dried tears. I was standing in the kitchen, staring at an empty pantry, wondering how kids my age talked about crushes and school dances while I was calculating how many slices of bread we had left. I didn't choose that life. But it chose me. I started waking up at 5 a.m. every morning, making their lunches, braiding Sorrel's hair, helping Callan with his homework, signing papers pretending to be my mother, lying to teachers about why she couldn't come to meetings. Nobody knew the truth. Nobody ever asked. By the time I turned 17, I had mastered the art of survival. I cooked, cleaned, did laundry, and worked a tiny part-time job at a local bakery. I gave up after-school activities. I skipped parties. I avoided relationships. Because the moment I walked through our front door, I wasn't Marcy the teenager. I was Marcy the guardian. My siblings adored me back then. They would cling to me, fall asleep in my lap, call me the best big sister in the world. They didn't know what I had sacrificed for them. But I also never told them. Kids shouldn't carry that weight. When graduation came, my guidance counselor told me I could easily get into a good state college. I had good grades. Teachers believed in me. But I knew the truth. There was no way Sorrel and Callan could manage on their own. So I smiled at the counselor and said, maybe next year. But there was no next year for me. Only more responsibility. My mother returned home less and less. Eventually, she moved to a different city with a new boyfriend, and left everything on my shoulders without even a goodbye. Years passed. I watched my siblings grow. I watched myself fade. Callan became the star athlete in high school. Sorrel discovered her love for photography. They had friends. They had opportunities. They had childhoods. I didn't. But I loved them enough not to resent them. When they got into good colleges, I felt proud, like a parent sending their kids into the world. I used my savings to help with their deposits. I worked extra shifts to buy Sorrel a new camera she needed. I gave Callan money for books. I told myself it was worth it. That one day they would look back and say, Marcy made all of this possible. But life doesn't always reward silent sacrifices. The first sign was subtle. Fewer phone calls. Shorter texts. Excuses like busy with exams, busy with internships, busy with life. Then came the second sign. They started posting pictures with captions like, "We came from nothing. We built ourselves from scratch." No mention of me. Not even once. But the real break? The moment that still stings? It was when Sorrel came home one Christmas. I cooked her favorite meal, decorated the house, even took time off work. She walked in, looked around, and said, "Wow, this place is still the same. I kinda outgrew all this, Marcy." Outgrew me. Callan wasn't any better. He started acting like visiting me was a chore, something he had to fit into his schedule. And when he introduced me to his friends, he said, "This is my sister Marcy. She, helped out a lot when we were kids." Helped out. I raised them. The final blow came months later, unexpectedly. A coworker sent me a podcast clip they had gone viral in. There were my siblings, sitting in a glossy studio, talking about their hard childhood, how they had no guidance, how they had made it alone, how they had pulled themselves up without any support. They erased me. Completely. Effortlessly. And strangely, that was the day I stopped crying over them. Because betrayal hurts the most when it comes from the people you saved. I didn't confront them. I didn't send a long message or demand an apology. I simply closed the podcast, placed my phone face down on the kitchen table, and sat there in silence. It wasn't the kind of silence that breaks you. It was the kind that wakes you up. For the first time in years, I looked at my life, really looked, and realized something painful, but freeing. My world had revolved around two people who no longer saw me as part of theirs. I went to work the next morning at Brighton Minimart, the small grocery store where I'd been a cashier for almost a decade. People smiled at me. Regular customers asked about my day. My manager, Mr. Kessler, gave me a warm nod as usual. And it hit me, this humble place, this simple job. It wasn't embarrassing. It wasn't failure. It was what kept me alive when the people I raised drifted away. But I wanted more, for myself, not for them. That evening, after my shift, I sat at the kitchen table with a blank notebook. For years, my dreams existed only in imaginary conversations, the ones I never allowed myself to pursue. But that night, something changed. I wrote one sentence. If no one chooses me, I will choose myself. I didn't know what that meant yet. But I meant it. So I called the community college the next morning. The counselor on the phone, a gentle woman named Kira Lang, listened as I explained my situation, my forgotten education, the years of raising my siblings, my quiet desire to finally learn something for myself. She didn't pity me. She didn't question my age. She said, with absolute certainty, "Marcy, it's never too late. Come in tonight. We'll figure it out." That was the first time in years someone believed in me. Walking into the campus building that evening felt unreal. I was surrounded by people half my age, laughing, planning their futures, glued to their phones. I felt old, out of place, and terrified. But Kira greeted me at the doorway like I belonged there. We talked for over an hour. She suggested early childhood education or child development since I practically had real-life experience. Her exact words were, "You've already raised 2 kids. Why not turn that skill into something that builds your future?" Something about that idea warmed me. I didn't raise my siblings to get a thank you. But maybe that pain could be turned into purpose. So I enrolled in night classes. 1 class at first. Then 2. I went to work during the day, studied at night, repeated the cycle for months. It was exhausting, but for the first time, the exhaustion felt meaningful. Slowly, my life built itself. I made friends, students younger than me who found my experiences inspiring, not embarrassing. I joined study groups. I aced assignments. I rediscovered a version of myself I had buried long ago. At home, the silence didn't hurt anymore. It felt peaceful now, not lonely. And then, something happened that changed everything. One day, during an early childhood development workshop, the instructor mentioned a small grant program for community members who wanted to open childcare spaces, daycares, tutoring centers, homework clubs. Small places. Modest places. But places that made a difference. I stayed after the workshop and asked her more. She said, "Marcy, you'd be perfect for this. Your background, your experience, your personality, everything fits." That night, I filled out the application with shaking hands. It felt ridiculous. It felt impossible. But it also felt right. Weeks later, the email came. I got the grant. I cried. Not because the grant meant money, but because it meant someone finally saw value in me. With the help of Kira and the program, I opened a tiny daycare called Little Lanterns Learning Home. It wasn't fancy, one big room, colorful walls, donated toys, a bookshelf I built from scratch, and a backyard play area that I cleaned myself. But the first day it opened, 5 kids showed up. Then 10. Then a waiting list. Parents trusted me. Kids adored me. Word spread fast. I was no longer the forgotten sister. I was Miss Marcy, the gentle woman who created a safe place for children who needed love, stability, and patience. For the first time in my life, I didn't need my siblings. I didn't wait for their calls. I didn't follow their social media. I didn't rearrange my life around people who erased me. I built something new, something that belonged entirely to me. And then, months later, when my daycare was thriving, when every slot was booked, when my life was full and peaceful, I received a message from Callan. "Hey, Marcy. I need to ask you something. It's important." I stared at the screen, my heart strangely calm. In the past, I would have dropped everything to respond. But this time, I simply locked my phone and went back to reading a bedtime story to the kids in my care. Whatever he needed could wait. For once, I wasn't the one chasing. Callan didn't stop after that first message. He sent 3 more over the next few days, each one sounding more tense, more desperate, more unlike the confident, polished man he portrayed online. I ignored them. Not out of spite, but because for the first time in my life, my priority wasn't them. It was me. My daycare. My peace. One evening, after the kids had gone home, I was sweeping the playroom floor when my phone buzzed again. This time it was Sorrel. Sorrel, who hadn't visited in almost 2 years. Sorrel, who had once called me her second mom, then later acted like I was some distant relative. Her message was short. "Marcy, please pick up. I need you." Need. That was a word they had never used with me since they made it. I let the phone ring out. But the next morning, I found both of them standing outside my daycare door. Callan looked exhausted. Sorrel's eyes were red, like she had cried all night. "Marcy," Callan said softly, "can we talk?" I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. The sound of children laughing inside felt like a warm shield around my heart. "We didn't know where else to go," Sorrel whispered. I crossed my arms. "I figured. You only come to me when life falls apart, right?" They flinched. Callan spoke first. "Marcy, we're struggling. We both have kids now. 2 each. We've been trying to find reliable childcare, but everywhere is full, or too expensive, or unsafe. I stayed silent. Sorrel stepped closer. Someone recommended this amazing daycare in town, said it was run by a woman named Miss Marcy. We didn't even know it was you. There was a moment of silence. Wind passing through old memories. Then Callan added, "We were hoping you could take our kids. Just for a while. Please." Years ago, I would have said yes, instantly. Years ago, I would have rearranged my entire life, stretched my schedule, skipped my breaks, sacrificed everything for them. But that version of me no longer existed. I smiled politely, not cruelly, not angrily, just honestly. "I'd love to help," I said. "But I can't." Their faces fell at the same time. "My daycare is fully booked for the next 8 months. Sorrel blinked rapidly. You can't make an exception?" I shook my head gently. "I don't make exceptions anymore. Not for anyone." Their panic cracked open. Callan paced. Sorrel tried to hold back tears. "This isn't fair," Callan muttered. "We're your family." Family. That word used to feel heavy and warm. Now it felt hollow. I looked at him, really looked, and said, "Family is not something you only remember when you need something." They both froze. "You erased me from your story," I continued. "You pretended you raised yourselves. You pretended you had no support. You pretended I didn't exist." Callan swallowed hard. "We were stupid. We were young. We didn't mean." "You meant enough to say it publicly," I cut in. "And now you want me to step in as if nothing happened?" Sorrel whispered, "We're sorry, Marcy. We really are. We didn't realize how much you did for us." A part of me softened. The child I once tucked into bed was still inside her somewhere. But this wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about punishment. It was about finally choosing myself. I placed a hand on Sorrel's shoulder. "I forgive you," I said calmly. "But forgiveness doesn't mean I go back to the person I used to be." They looked confused. So I explained. All my life, I was the safety net. The backup plan. The invisible support. But I'm not that person anymore. I built something of my own. And I won't break it, not even for you. A heavy silence filled the space between us, not angry, not hostile. Just honest. For the first time ever, they understood the truth. I no longer needed them. But they needed me. And that was the quiet, poetic justice life had written for me. Eventually, they left, slowly, quietly, humbled. They didn't beg again. They didn't demand anything. They simply walked to their car, holding the weight of consequences they had created themselves. I watched them go with no bitterness in my heart, only clarity. Some people only value you when they lose access to the version of you that carried them. And sometimes the strongest revenge is simply not being available anymore. That evening, I locked up the daycare, turned off the lights, and stepped outside into the cool air. For the first time in years, I felt free. Not because I got revenge. Not because they apologized. But because I finally understood something. You don't have to stay small in the places where people refuse to see your worth. You're allowed to grow past them. You're allowed to choose yourself. And I did. Every day after that. I kept choosing myself. If this story touched your heart, or reminded you of someone in your own life, tell me in the comments below. Your experiences matter, and you never know who might feel less alone because of your words. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with anyone who needs to hear this message. Your support helps bring more real stories, more healing, and more strength to people who need it. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes the quietest people carry the loudest strength.